transformative work? And so I was very haunted by that question, and we ended up moving out here. We had little babies, and our organization was falling apart. I ended up going to UMass. I lived in a field across the way from it, and I met a teacher there, and it was the family therapy program. And so I was really interested in systems theory and how they fit together. I just kind of ended up there because I was really trying to figure out my life and really trying to pursue this question. And then what's interesting is in that time period, and again, being a leftist, we were like, religion is the opiate of the masses, like Marx. I mean, people took that very literally. But Steve, our son, and Renee and I all had various encounters with Buddhism, and I became a practicing Buddhist in 1987, maybe, but the Vipassana tradition.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I ended up, so I had been an organizer my whole life, and then I had my doctorate, kind of like you, I did a stint in academia because, I had kids going to college, we had to retire someday, we had been working in factory, we didn't, so I did that job for a while, and actually I worked at Keene State College, and the work we did was racism and white supremacy, as well as like the radical, revolutionary perspective work. That was a really big deal because it was white working class students and white privileged students that went there because it was safe. And and we had this group of women, international women, amazing women. You probably don't know Janaki Nataraj.
No.
But anyway, a really interesting group.
I met her.
You know Janaki, right? So a true revolutionary who. It's a long story, but anyway, we had an amazing, and we did really exciting, campus-wide stuff, and it was on fire. But then after a few years, it kind of got smashed, and in 20, what was it, like 20, maybe it was like around 2011 or 2012, I had done, all kinds of organizing in my life, but I had not really been involved in the climate movement because I always thought, it's this sort of white privileged people working on, I didn't really get it, but in 2012, I realized around 2011, 2012 that everything else we were doing, if we didn't address climate and climate justice, then there, I don't have to finish the sentence. And I was like, whoa, like, what? I didn't get that. So I ended up, it took me a while to extract myself because I was running this graduate program in school counseling, and I couldn't just, disappear.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But in a way, it was also so hard working with all these white supremacist people there. I had this man who was after me for years because I challenged him around stuff. It was I say that when I was there, it prepared me for the fires of the world we're in now. 'Cause I had a really, I had to access more strength and ability to stand up to that kind of thing. I mean, I always, it transformed me in a way, because I had to really be tougher than I felt like I was. So anyway, I left and came back and started, with a friend of mine, started this group, Climate Action Now, and got really involved in climate justice and involved in working a lot in Springfield. To this day, I'm still really involved in fighting this biomass plant. For everything, it's from stopping pipelines to, legislation at the state level to participating in national, international things. I just really dropped deep into that world, but I always felt that the really important thing was for people to work together. I never forgot those lessons. Well, they were seared into me about sectarianism and abuse of power, and so, and relationships, which is the other thing that I really understand from my years of work. It's really about your relationships with people. So the reason that I got involved in this is because I was so deep in with Sanji into this process of envisioning. I knew there was this amazing thing that you were supposed to do, and we were trying to figure out what it was. And when Sanji told me about this, I was like, that's exactly the job we've been envisioning. Because we were always talking about white supremacy and theater and education and, you know, mentoring, and all of these things. Like, it was a job description for what Sanji's doing now. And I, you know, just being really upfront, I am so overcommitted, and I have real weakness in, like, saying yes, and because I'm non-sectarian in a way, like, I work with a lot of different groups, but then that's even more multiplications of relationships and things, and it's, you know, what did you say, a gift and a curse? So yeah, it's kind of like, oh, so I didn't, you know, if it wasn't this, I would have said, like, that's so great, like, how can I help you, but I can't do that. But I just, you know, that's why I said yes, because it's like, wow, this is what we've been talking about. It's manifesting. And of course, I've always, the work of the Middle Passage, I just know from people that have participated how it's changed people's lives for so many years. And I've known Sister Claire, of course, forever. And yeah, so that's a quick snapshot of life. So I just pretty much left, and I organize, like, super full-time now. And yeah, it's a desperate time. And the other thing that I always felt was essential to the work is white supremacy and racism. And I learned that at my earliest days, and that's of being awakened. And so that work, to me, it's like really like the same work, and it's always trying to connect it. And so that's really woven into it. So that's a little snapshot.
Wow. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you said yes.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes.
Yeah. Just because Sonji loves you so much, you know, and so that made you real for me, you know, and that you must be a genuine person and a good person with heart and a spirit and a love for humanity, because that's what Crossing the Waters is all about, you know. And if Sonji says that that's who you are, that's who you are, that's who we want, you know, working with us. It's, you know, it's magic work. It really, really is. It's hard work, but it's magic always comes out of it, you know, and you feel so good when you're so tired after working a project and bringing it to fruition, and you're exhausted, but it feels so good. It's a good exhaustion, you know, and it's like you go to sleep and say, okay, well, that project's over. What's next? What are we doing next, you know? How are we going to keep this going, you know? And sometimes you can't keep it going just because there's no funding. It's a shame that money has to always come into it, you know? I mean, I haven't given myself a salary in 20 years. I just don't. Just give me a plane ticket and make sure I can eat when I get there. Excuse me.
And the rest will be taken care of.
Should I bring up this